down, pump it up while your feet are stumping.
Coming at you from Long Island, this is The Pump. Today I have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt John Fico, and also lifetime martial artist and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, and also Japanese Jiu-Jitsu black belt, Erik.
Welcome, everybody. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having us on. I appreciate you guys.
All right, so we're going to go in to the whole timeline of our martial arts journeys, how it's changed from when we first started until now. All of us are teachers at some capacity. He teaches a lot of children. He works with a lot of adults, and I work with a lot of athletes as well as general population as well, doing more strength and conditioning focused tasks. However, I still am a martial arts instructor too. So we're gonna get into that as well. I'd rather start with Johnny first, and I'll go last, and we can talk about how you started and what was the training like to get you from beginner until, let's say, brown belt.
Wow, it's a long journey to talk about. But to start, I guess I got into jiu-jitsu through I wanted to have some control or power, be able to defend myself. I was young and very angry, so I needed something that had a lot of contact, right? And I actually went and explored a bunch of different kinds of martial arts before I settled at where we are still, Trigon.
So what styles did you study, and where did you study them, if you don't mind?
So actually, Erik had a lot to do with this. So our journeys are pretty intertwined, so you're going to hear some overlap. I actually was going around to different dojos, trying different things. I did like an MMA gym I tried out. That was actually pretty sick, but it was like too much for me at the beginning. I wasn't too sure about it. And then I ended up trying karate out. Erik can definitely tell us about
Kempo karate, Shotokan.
I don't remember the name, but
Tracy's Kempo Karate.
Oh, Kempo karate.
That's where Erik was like
fighting concepts.
Okay.
He kind of got me into martial arts though, and then I had to figure out which ones I wanted to do, and I found that jiu-jitsu was like the best thing ever. Like I loved the grabbing and the grappling, and we didn't even have a program when I signed up at the place for just strict BJJ. It was like one class a week.
It was a Japanese jiu-jitsu school traditionally. However, so you trained in the Japanese jiu-jitsu martial art as well.
Yeah.
In the beginning.
Which was extremely like a lot of live training, a lot of grabbing and throwing and striking, a lot of striking. It was hard. It was like an MMA class in the gi in a lot of ways back in the day with a lot of tough dudes on the mat. And that was my favorite part, was the actual like grabbing and throwing and stuff. I always kind of had a hard time with like sequences personally. Never really saw those apply for me. So I was always very into the improv part of like fighting and martial arts.
So you always, I guess, were attracted more to the live training, right? Instead of just drilling techniques. Like traditional martial arts tend to love just repeating the same technique over and over again, remembering the exact name and doing them in a certain order. It's almost like you're just practicing just the skill in a static fashion, and there's no live resistance.
Yeah, that was just
right. That's traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu usually is taught like that, but then you transition more to Brazilian jiu-jitsu within Trigon because they had the Emerson Souza connection, where your instructor there trained under and started teaching Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and that's where you felt the connection to that. So,
actually, the place was called American Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, it was under a guy named Joe Pulio at the time, I guess. Technically,
yeah, I never.
It was
met
an
him,
affiliate, but now they're separated.
Yeah.
So now it's more of a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school. He still teaches kids classes. He does teach some adults as well, but he's very good kids instructor. He understands, and kids is probably the hardest people to teach because it's very different than teaching adults. So, all right. So now let's just stay on you for right now. So Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you start training that. Then when do you meet Robert Deagle? Robert Deagle is a famous Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu martial artist who trained under John Danaher. So can you, and Eddie Cummings as well.
Deagle, I met a long time ago. I don't even know if he'll remember me, honestly. But I did have him do a seminar at Trigon one time. He was like a purple belt, and I watched him at a tournament once, and I just started sparking up conversation with him because he hit like an omoplata to a knee bar, and it looked really cool. And I was like, wow, you move awesome, dude. Like, what's up? Where do you train? And then I don't even think he was at Danaher's yet. I think he went to Danaher's, right? And
he trained with Eddie Cummings. Right?
We were later.
Correct.
I think it was later, after I met him already. Okay. And then years later, I had him come to Trigon and like do a seminar there. It was like a back control day. It was like all back control stuff, hand trapping stuff. Before he was like, renowned.
Basically like that straight jacket system, similar.
Yeah, it was very similar stuff.
Like Gordon Ryan,
like changing the side that he's on and stuff, which we already sort of were doing, because John was loosely tied to Danaher back in the day through Aaron Milan. Yeah, that was cool. But honestly, I didn't just train at one place this whole time though. I've been like with athletes all over the place, training everywhere, up until a certain point, which we'll get into later. But I think Erik take it over from here.
Yeah, now
'cause-
we get into Eric's journey as well. So that's where we're at.
Sure. My martial arts journey starts with other types of athletics like skateboarding and other movement disciplines like gymnastics, and of course anime. So when I was in my skateboarding groups, I started noticing that people were kind of getting into the wrong type of thing, and I didn't want to do that. And one of my friends got into a karate class, and I kind of just followed him into it, and I was hooked immediately. It was on a Halloween. That was my first karate class. So it was a Tracy's Kempo karate system, and a lot of the techniques are almost like choreographed dances. Famous moves like thundering hammers and dancer, Chinese sword, very dynamic, explosive things. But the distance between using that and real applications pretty far, and you would just practice doing the same moves over and over and over again in the air. And of course, it kind of felt like a little bit of a waste of time, some of that type of stuff, because you'd start sparring and none of that stuff would come to fruition.
The sparring and what you're drilling all the time, it doesn't even look the same. So I was like, why am I even doing this? If it's not helping me get better at what is actually important, can I apply it in a real situation?
Yeah, and then
it's Ed Parker's Kempo system.
It was actually Tracy's. It wasn't Ed Parker's.
It's not the same.
Not the same lineage. I'm not exactly sure how these things separate. It might be the difference between the M and the N in Kempo, but like.
Oh, are they? So
they're different.
Kempo, KM.
I think it was M. I'm not
M.
sure.
Oh, so it's like a Japanese.
American.
It's almost like a Kaju Kempo.
Was it American?
It was
Kempo
American
karate?
Kempo. Yeah, I forgot it was the N or the M. I'm
Ed,
sorry.
right? Was his name? Ed was your sensei?
Yeah, Ed Doherty.
I came to one or two of those classes.
Yeah.
And it was like extremely overly constrained activities, and then all of a sudden just live sparring with no direction.
No direction, right? You're
just like fucking hitting each other.
Yeah, and you're justifying all these techniques by trying to find ways to use them in sparring, like by shortening them or like making them a little bit less dynamic,
because
or
they're
whatever.
over the top, exaggerating motions, right? A lot of those
Yeah.
Kempo movements do teach good. I think they teach good biomechanics, not efficient biomechanics for actually applying skill, but it shows you how to use your whole body,
Yeah.
driving from your leg, rotating the hip, rotating your shoulder, chaining things together.
That's definitely for sure.
conceptually true.
Yes.
But you have to now take that and be smart enough to like, okay, how can I force this concept into like how I throw a cross? Even though I'm not practicing throwing a cross, it's kind of mechanically I'm using the rotation, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's kind of silly. It gets to the point, it's like, why not just practice throwing the cross? You know what I'm saying? Why am I trying to force this random Kempo move into continue?
Yeah, that's kind of how it felt. But you justify all that and you find ways to make it work, and you keep on practicing. I got like close to the instructor rank, it's red belt or whatever. But around that time was the first time I had an interaction with a jiu-jitsu player, and it was actually in my backyard because I would invite John and my buddy Mike Roselli into the backyard, and we'd do like these little sparring meets, and I would always constraint grappling because I didn't know how to do it, and I didn't think it was real fighting at the time. I didn't even think wrestling was a martial art. I wouldn't consider it at that time. I was like 15 people, please forgive me. But I get taken down to the floor, I get put in a kesa, and I could not get out. And I I shrugged it off. I was like, oh, whatever, it can't get me down anyway. But that always stuck in my mind. I always remember getting pinned to the floor and I couldn't get out. Time goes by. I get into college, University of Buffalo, CMAC. Shouts to Ryan Monolopoulos, David Cobb, Edmund Sigro. Those guys helped me out a lot during that time. So CMAC is a martial arts club in college, University of Buffalo. Sorry, I'm rambling.
Is it a kickboxing based kind of?
It was a combined martial arts club.
Okay.
So Arnis, kickboxing, Muay Thai, Sansho, even Jeet Kune Do. We had a Bujinkan program. It was crazy. Capoeira for a second. So it was a really interesting club, and everyone in it was actually that was running classes was certified as an instructor. So all the classes were like pretty legit. So I was competing in Kali Eskrima with Datu Tim Hartman. I was
Oh wow, I know him.
Yeah.
I didn't know you trained with him.
I trained with him. I'd done his competition twice, the Queen City Lob and Laro.
Yeah.
I took first once, and I took second the next year.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I competed with him. And then I did 2 kickboxing fights while I was in college at the Arnold Classic, and I got washed the first time. I got put up against a guy that was destined to be a pro, and I just was not ready. And he absolutely pieced me up. I got knocked out, towel thrown in and everything. Get him out of there. Second year came back, parry jab, broke the guy's nose.
Nice.
Took the win. So college finishes up, and then I get a little introduction to judo. And I'm like, oh, wow, this grappling stuff's really great. And then as soon as I realized how great grappling is, I talked to him and a couple of my other friends, and I just full send into BJJ. Go to Matt Serra's, get my blue belt. After I get my blue
You're
belt,
training Huntington or Leviton at the
both
time?
locations, but mostly Huntington because it was on my way to my
And who
job.
was teaching you? Drago, Pizzell, or who was
Dan the pool guy, Mike, Drago I met a few times. Even Matt. I have a funny story with Matt. He gave me his blue belt, the blue belt personally. Should I tell the Matt story? Because the Matt story is pretty funny.
All right, let's hear it. As long as it's positive.
It's positive. It makes me look pathetic. I
Okay,
think it's
okay.
kind of funny. So I'm a real big go-getter at the gym. I'm trying to get recognized, and Matt uses me as an uke, and we're doing something from the knees, and like he gets his hands on me, and he just immediately feels how frail I am, and he's like, "Yo, be strong." Be strong. And then he puts his hands on me again, and I just fucking crumble over. And he's like, "All right, somebody else." And like that's the last time I interacted with Matt. Yeah, fucking guy just crumpled me over, dude. 23-year-old me just could not. Anyway, so while I'm training at Matt's, I'm also cross training at Trigon. I'm also teaching at a kickboxing school.
How'd you get into Trigon quickly through Roselli? Is that how it happened?
I just always knew that Trigon was there. It was like really close to my house, and ever since I started training, I knew about John. I even jumped in there once or twice to do a kickboxing class. Sorry, it's like 20 years of me trying to recollect, guys. It's a lot, and a lot of head trauma too. Anyway, so while I'm at Matt's, I'm cross training, and then John just sees how passionate I am, and he sees how hard I'm willing to work, and how much I wanted to be in the industry, and he just sponsored my life. And yeah, it's been 10 years, and I'm a brown belt now. He picked me up.
So
while I was-
Sensei John Giotis, your instructor at Trigon, the owner of Trigon, just confirming what they're talking about.
That's
Correct.
right. Yeah,
Yep.
sorry. I'm kind of trying to put it all together. My apologies. Yeah, so he sponsored my lifestyle as a martial artist full time. I teach kids all day, every day, a couple adult classes here and there, and yeah, just working on my craft. That's where I am now.
All right, and I'll just be quick. I'm a lifetime martial artist as well. I did Japanese jiu-jitsu traditionally under Mikado at the time, a guy named Soke John Oschlager. Then I also trained Joan Fon JKD at seminars. It's a lot of seminars because I learned a lot from my friend Mike Sweeters, who was into it. We would go to seminars in Queens. The guy Nick Sakoulis owned a place called Progressive Martial Arts. We would go to Queens a lot, just to as many JKD seminars and even some Muay Thai seminars with like a Jordan Chai series suit. I don't know if you know what that is, but like World Thai Boxing Association, Erik Paulson, all kinds of JKD seminars. So traditional Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, JKD style seminar, maybe like slightly MMA, but not really. And then in college, I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu a little bit. We had a guy, John Cowan, who's a Muay Thai guy, and also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt who would teach us some stuff. And also some basic grappling stuff from a guy named Larry Hartzell. He was trained under. So we trained that. I was teaching martial arts, teaching martial arts since I was 14. So I was running the club in college, as well as going to college at SUNY Cortland, which is a decent school for a SUNY school, for what I went to school for, which was exercise science and kinesiology, which is basically an introduction into physical therapy, physical education, and anything into the world of strength and conditioning, sports science, athletic preparation, and athletic training. So it's like a prerequisite course, and then from there you could decide what avenue you want to specialize in. Okay, so I was training in martial arts since I was 4 years old and teaching since 14, running a club there, and also in school for anything related to physical movement, how to teach it, how to develop it, and how the human body functions and moves. Okay, so I graduate from there. At this time, anytime I'm doing a break, I'm training with Sensei John and your Sensei John at Trigon, because my friend Mike Sweeters introduced me there. I liked it because it had the combination of the Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, the Kiri Tersia Kali, the Muay Thai kickboxing, kind of. It's some Muay Thai. It's not like hardcore Muay Thai kickboxing, but it's like an introductory to Muay Thai kickboxing and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, obviously. So that's where I got ranked to my blue belt there under Emerson Souza lineage. And I've been training on and off since then, and went on to open up my own little like garage facility during COVID, where we started training again because the gyms were closed. So we're training in my backyard a lot. And then I also hooked up at that time with Ray Longo and that whole team, Sarah Longo fight team, due to this guy over here. I don't know if you can see it, but Dr. Tony Ricci, I have a picture of him. He was a sports scientist working for the Sarah Longo team. So now I'm just a strength and conditioning coach. Worked with a lot of mixed martial arts fighters. I teach some martial arts, but not really a martial arts teacher, but I'm still a martial arts practitioner. I take classes of Sensei John. Now, at school, I was in a class called Motor Behavior. They actually asked me after the class, guy who was doing extremely well in it, to be the teacher's assistant for that class. And in that class, I was introduced to something. This is about 2017. So before that CLA concept came out and about, people were never talking about that for martial arts training at the time. In 2017, I was the teacher assistant for motor behavior, and we're discussing dynamic systems theory. So now this is part of your guys' training as well. The way you teach martial arts has changed. So can you get on now, since Coach John, can you explain like your teaching style and how it has evolved from when you were just teaching like basically like systems methods, almost like the Danaher-esque system style training? Because when I first came to you, that's how you were teaching a lot of that Danaher systems, but now you teach more constraint led games. So can you get into that, please?
Yeah, so it's a lot to unravel, guys. You guys know if you're into this thing at all, it's a huge, huge field. Where to even begin? So it's a methodology backed by a theoretical underpinning, and the theoretical underpinning comes from ecological psychology and dynamic systems theory. And it sounds like a lot of jargon, but I promise it's worth its weight in gold to understand some of the basic foundational principles of it, because it's nice to have something to rely on to back your practice design. So for me, I had a unique issue where I can't actually, it's like a physical constraint. I had like 6 years ago, I had an onset of some kind of neurological issue in my head and neck and my eyes. So dizziness, headaches, like a curse. Think of a curse like every day and night, sick. And it's still going on to this day, even though we found some treatment. So I needed to find a way to run classes effectively. And this is the first time I actually looked into like practice design. And it's a winding road that led me to CLA and having an open mind. But I knew something had to change. I was never happy with the guys that I created. I was never happy with, just telling people exactly how to move and coming up with all these moves and ideas and sequences. Some guys out there, you get it to work for you, and that's amazing. I couldn't do it. I just sucked too much at that. So I had to figure out a new way to approach being a coach. And that led me into like starting over. Just a willingness to be wrong is where this all started. Like I've always been willing to just say, maybe I was not right. Maybe I'm not that smart. Maybe I wasn't that good. And that's like the leapfrog moment for me that like cleared my mind of what I assumed to be right and started learning some new things that actually back us, like back my training methodology. And then obviously it's sort of a form of innovation, which if you guys know anything about the history of innovation, it's always met with resistance. So it's interesting when you're at other people's, locations and you're coming in with a new theoretical framework and a new methodology. It could be difficult because you kind of clash theoretically with what was previously the sort of assumed underpinnings of what's backing methodology.
And it's hard for the other person to almost make the same realization you made. They have to admit, now they need to admit to themselves, even if they don't have to say it out loud to others, they have to admit to themselves, okay, what I was doing previously was not the most effective strategy. So not, I don't want to say right or wrong, but it wasn't ideal. So they have to first admit that to even be open minded to your concept. So, which is hard for people to do because people have egos and they want to let go of the past and they want to hold on, like, no, I got this. And there's all these different styles of like appeal to authority and like it worked for this guy and it did this in the past and all this shit. So, you want to, it's hard to get that other person to kind of like acquiesce to your concept and at least be giving it a try because it requires them to say, you know what, maybe I was wrong in some aspects.
Primarily, I'd say I'm lucky enough though to be. I was with at Trigon, and he allowed me to just do this experiment to like completely rewrite practice design and like run an experiment on his room, and it actually, luckily for me, has been successful with building some of our best guys ever. I look at basically I look at a room and say the worst guy in the room, like the lowest level guy, is a good example of the coach, is of a good example of how the coach's practice design affects everyone. I know we look at the best guys historically, but if you go into a room and you look at some of the worst guys or the average, right, you'll get a better picture of the coach, like his ability as a coach to, coax emergent behavior out of his students and kind of cultivate skill acquisition over a long period of time.
Okay, so now can you guys both, you could discuss this just for dummies, pretend like this person has no idea about anything about martial arts training or just anything about anything, and in the simplest words possible, in the least amount of words possible, can you simplify the difference between CLA style teaching and traditional teaching? Just explain it in the simplest way possible without so much extra jargon. That'd be ideal. And then we could add the jargon in later.
Instead of prescribing a exact way to move to accomplish a certain task, you give them an invariant and a
What
task.
what do you mean by that exactly?
The thing that can't change about whatever you're trying to do. You try to give them an invariant and a task to get to that invariant, or something that I don't know exactly how to explain. I apologize.
I
but-
think
No,
you
that's
mean
pretty good.
Go ahead,
physical certainty and direct language,
Okay.
backing live training in doses. Think of it in doses, right? Like, so we're not just unconstrained sparring, and we're not over constrained prescribing in no context.
I know it sounds crazy to even ask you to describe this. Can you just explain what a constraint means? I know what it means.
Oh, constraint is not restraint, so we don't tie each other up. Restraints are how you tie each other up, which he's into.
I'm
not into that.
Only at night.
I did enough of that at Trigon with the homies. But constraint is like a parameter to allow exploration within the constraints. So like I'll give you guys a very good example of a well-known and talked about, I guess it was a study. I don't know if it was a study or an observation from some big brain individuals that I don't even remember their names. But here's the actual story. So they are observing children in a park, like in a park setting. And the children in the park setting without a fence tend to cling together, and they didn't really explore all the way to the edges of the park. They stayed in groups. They stayed towards the center. The park with a fence, or they put a fence up, the kids were exploring all the way from one side to the other within the constraints of the fence. So think of it like that. There's information in an environment. There's information in a dialogue between two moving bodies. And your job as coach is to manipulate those little search spaces for solutions. So like if it's an armbar that you want to do, that was one of the first things that actually Erik experienced in one of my CLA classes.
Let's
We
get into
sh-
that story. I think it's cool.
Yeah, we sharpened up like a lot of different neighboring skills. Now, Erik said the word invariant. That's actually used in two different ways. That's used like in the literature to mean something else, and a feature of the environment, like relative to affordance seeking, which I don't really want to get into all that stuff too much because it's too much.
Simplest terms possible. Yeah.
Someone else popularized the use of the word invariant, which is Greg Souders, in a different context. It's like an unchanging feature of the environment. So like human bodies have shoulders, hips, and we hold people to the ground, stuff like that. Like immobilization.
Those
is
are constants.
You know what I mean?
I guess they're constants.
Like
right?
connections are sort of invariants. They're things that we can do. Like we know what a triangle looks like, but what is it actually? It's like a compression of the shoulder into the neck with one arm trapped in a closed circle with the legs or the arms, right? Reductive, slightly, but still useful. So we're using direct language to get you to do specific tasks that will slowly over time longitudinally build skill. And I think that's the powerful advantage of CLA is like over longitudinal training sessions. So over 2 months, 3 months, you see like complete transformations in behavior. And that's really what I'm looking for. I don't really care too much about like you walk away. You might not walk away from a CLA class thinking you actually learned much at all. It might feel like it was just overwhelming and you didn't really learn much and it was just too hard.
It may have been a lot of conditioning too, because it's an hour of live work in essence,
actual
which is
capacity.
most classes are 40 minutes of drilling and stuff, and then 20 minutes of live work. This is if that, and this is nonstop live work. Everything's going, but it's I would say the word isolated is how I'm going to use it. I know that's not the correct necessarily, but simple. Like you're isolating separate skills. So you're isolating one skill, doing that live. Then you're isolating another skill, doing that live, isolating another skill. So throughout the whole class, you're working on a variety of different skills, because if you just went and rolled or did live sparring, you just stick to what you're good at. And there's a term for that, I know, but you stick to what you're good at, or you stick to whatever feels safe. But this forces you to explore different ways of solving problems that you may not have been faced with normally, because you actually guard it using something that you're familiar with, and you kind of protect yourself. So this allows you to let go and put yourself in situations where you normally would not be, and develop certain skills.
The great
Yeah.
thing about CLA is that it gives you experience in whatever you're doing. So for instance, if you're like working a pin and you just need to practice doing this. You attach yourself to their body and you keep them down, as opposed to a coach telling you exactly how he wants you to keep him down. Now, after you gain the experience, after you've done a bunch of these games and you get this experience, if a coach comes up to you and is like, hey, I like doing this. When I do this and I put my hips and like my knees over here, it works really well for me. You have all this experience to backlog that, and then you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'll just try that and see if it works. Instead of the coach like being like, I do it like this, like this, like this, and then you're put in the live environment, you're like trying to think about exactly what he told you and then trying to put it into play while you have a resistance against you.
Where the environment may not be inviting for that specific ability, right? So that ability that he's saying to do could be correct in certain contexts based on the reaction and the feel of in the moment in time. However, in that moment in time, you're trying to force a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah.
It's not ready for this. It's not a square hole yet. When it's a square hole, then use the technique he said. But you have to feel the timing on when to do that based on the person's energy, right? What they're giving you. And when you're kind of getting at?
Yeah, when you have the experience underneath there, you'll be able to feel what they would call an affordance to do the thing.
That's the key word, is experience. I think that's what it's speed running. It's just like grinding and speed running live experience. Obviously, there's pros and cons. I think maybe we should talk about what the hell CLA even is. What are the 4 pillars of CLA? Do you guys know what they are?
I don't know them all, but Constraint to Afford, Representative Learning Design, forgot the other 2.
Session intention and attention. So we're directing attention and we have a session intention. And representative learning design.
Okay, so let's get each 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Say the word, describe it in simple for dummies terms. Say the word, dummies term.
So the easiest thing is the session intention and attention. So understand that the coach is directing attention. So we're not dictating exactly. We're giving you cues, constraints to work with, and guiding, facilitating experience, facilitating self-learning. Right, that comes down now to a theory of like how people learn in the first place, and we want to interfere just the right amount and not too much, and that's the delicate balance between, because our gut instinct as coaches, we want to tell people exactly the solution, and sometimes that can be too much interference. So you have to be careful. Hey, dude.
No, thank you. Yeah.
What up, bro?
It's good, brother. What's in it? Give me your card. I'll take it. Fuck it.
He needs a power wash.
You could get sold to any moment in New York, bro.
That's
they
funny.
got dudes like selling shit in your driveway in New York, bro. It's competition, man. That's what it is. He's living. Hell yeah.
That's funny.
Hell yeah, bro. Session intention, attention. You have representative learning design. That means keep in mind that we're trying to model the practice close to the sports environment that we're getting ready for, right? So if you want to get good at punching stuff, you should be punching stuff. Then there's constraint to afford. So you don't just put constraints on someone to take things away. You're actually putting constraints on the activity to promote exploration in the thing that you're trying to get them good at, whatever it is. Like if it's, for example, I'll try to use examples like affordances to getting behind a person. And then I might tell you, we get behind people in one of 2 ways: opening the elbow and going behind it, or getting the elbow across and going behind it. And the same goes for the leg, actually. Opening the leg and going under it and behind it, or crossing the leg and going around it to get behind someone, right? So once you know that, that's sort of the invariant thing that Erik brought up before. Like, there's ways to do things, which we are allowed to show people. I can show you, like, we get behind people by doing this, and then give you an activity where I might start you behind someone and keep you there. Stay behind their elbows as long as you can. Then I might have you in front of the elbows, get behind an elbow, or at least get an elbow across or open an elbow and get between them. So now we're splitting arms and flanking arms, and we're splitting legs and flanking legs, right? These are actionable, physically certain things, and that's where constraint to afford comes in. I want you to explore these different things relative to what we're trying to do. And that's basically like the nuts and bolts of what's going on. Then you have what we covered, representative learning design real quick. Model the practice, the activity closely to the environment that you're preparing for, right? So if it's something that's not jujitsu, like striking, if it's riding bikes, there's some way to do constraints-led approach for everything. Video games do it too. I mean, it's popular in other sports already, and they actually gatekeep it a little bit. Penn State, I think their entire program is like largely CLA. Basketball uses it to a great extent. Volleyball uses it to a great extent.
Have you seen the pedal
Dance.
bikes? The pedal bikes that they have kids using now?
No.
They can strain the pedals away. So the invariance is the two wheels and you're moving forward, right? And the balance. So they take away the pedals. So you just kick and then you're working on being on two wheels, moving forward and balancing. And then after you develop that skill, they put the pedals on. No training wheels because you
Love
already
it.
have the skill to have two wheels and move forward and balance.
That makes sense.
Put the wheels on. Now you have a new skill to learn to pedal.
Because I guess the training wheels were in another
relying on them
a whole different.
Yeah, why would
environment.
you use them?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it would never be
Yeah.
true. Like you never have.
It's not representative. It's not representative.
Was that in How We Learn to Move? Which
I think so.
I'll recommend that book to a lot of people. How We Learn to Move by Rob Gray is probably the easiest, most digestible, most comprehensive first thing I would read. And it's important that you discuss things constantly too. So when I started like implementing, I actually was streaming my class to an anonymous large group of black belts and other CLA coaches around the world. And I was getting feedback from like wrestling coaches, these guys up in Canada that were always watching my design because who am I to run a stand-up wrestling program 20 minutes a class? But my whole class, a third of it is standing engagements. So we're starting right on the feet, right from get-go. But I needed someone else to kind of watch my classes. So I have peer review for a year and a half of my classes and feedback from other black belts that are also CLA coaches who used to be traditionally coaching. And I got in contact with a lot of the, more famous guys in this little niche of training by being in a Discord group that I was constantly participating in. And it was a big thing for me to constantly debate. I was obsessed. So that's the kind of guy I am. I just get like intellectually hooked on stuff, obsessed with it. And it just never ends for me. I'm like always trying to understand a little bit more. Recently, I've been like slipping into the philosophical side of things, like the perception science of the five senses and where this all started with J.J. Gibson. It's kind of boring to the average person, but for me, it's like it's a very fascinating conversation because it's a new way to look at your interaction with reality.
We get into a couple like quote unquote case studies. Like you're kind of a case study, right? You started traditional, then you went CLA, then you have the guy Billy. Just going to like two different people, three different people, and how they started, how they are now, and the rate at which they're developing.
Well,
So
I
it's
can
like-
wrestle now.
Yeah.
I used to not be able to wrestle for shit.
None of us.
Yeah, I couldn't wrestle for shit, and it was really just like getting used to having like clearing up, making and breaking connections. It's what it's all about. So, and I did a few wrestling classes. I did a few jiu-jitsu classes where like this is a shot, this is a takedown, but not until you learn to make those connections or disconnect those hands can you actually make those opportunities happen, and then you start learning to move the elbows around. But so I'm a case study for that, definitely on the
And you
wrestling
applied
side.
it today against a real good sambo guy, so
The whole
you
room.
got to apply it.
Yeah, it's
I
like the
got
whole
tested
room.
today.
The whole room like can do on the feet grappling, and it's normal now. Everybody's got a safe way to take each
let's
other
just
down.
clarify. Normally in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu classes, you don't even do a lot on the feet, and if you do, it's very like here's how to do an osotogari, like an outside leg sweep. That never works. But it's just basic teaching techniques without like enough live work. And then when you do live work, nothing happens because no one knows what to go for. There's no
I also
direction.
banned the Osotogari.
Yeah, that shit's bullshit. But
I like I banned it because
like it.
of knee injury.
I guess this.
I gamified it yesterday. Actually, I
You
played in my class.
You got to get the off balancing right, and you could chain it into other techniques. It
Mm.
goes well with like a Tai Toshi or like whatever. You know what I'm talking about.
For
Yeah.
safety purposes in the live environment, I took away any time that you wrap a leg and fall. That also promotes, it's constraining to afford. You're promoting wrestling style behaviors. You're promoting mat return style behaviors. You're promoting like getting hands to the mat, getting hips to the mat. You're promoting lifting legs off the mat. You're promoting getting behind. You're promoting double legs, single legs. Even turning throws are fine, like with the hips, where you lift the hips, and whether it's balls to butts to nuts or nuts to butts, however you want to go about it. Picking someone's hips up and getting under them and getting their feet off the ground to put their hands on the floor, their butt on the floor. Like taking away certain things safened up what's allowed on the feet. And now I don't have to worry so much about like catastrophic falling injuries.
Right, like jumping to pull guard or like jumping kanebasami type scissor
Soto-
techniques.
or
Soto, you don't like for some
Soto
reason.
is no good for that because I've met like 5 people who had ACL tears from a Sotogaris.
Even
I
Mike.
Well, I worked in PT for a long time, and that's what I was going to do is physical therapy, but I decided not to do that after getting almost all the way there.
That's like the first throw everyone gets shown to. What the hell?
It's
That's
dangerous
crazy.
because our legs are intertwined, and in like a decontextualized setting, it's safe.
Yeah.
But guys tend to like force those decontextualized things to like
Work.
and your leg might get stuck and you can't move it.
Stuck
and
on the mat.
The counter to
like
Osoto
if
is
the
an
other
Osoto?
guy if the other guy's falling before you're falling, like say I wrap your leg up and I start falling before you're falling, especially with closed hands, it's a recipe for disaster.
I would never usually pick a Soto as a dangerous move, but it's interesting, I guess, when you're applying it live, it could be. I guess you've seen it. Right, would you naturally think that?
I mean, I still play it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't constrain that.
If
but
you're foot sweeping,
I can
that's
see where it's
different.
coming from. Yeah.
That sets up other stuff, like Osoto sets up Ochigari and other foot sweeps.
Yeah, they step over and then you can start turning angles. They lean forward out of it.
Well, I'm talking about like
exactly.
wrapping
the
the
Harai
leg.
out of it. Oh
Yeah,
man.
Yeah,
Osoto.
because your leg's already up.
Mhm.
Right, goes.
I'm more talking about like wrapping of the leg. So you
Cook
might be like
Sodaki.
clubbing calf to calf and not wrapping his leg.
Okay, like a grapevine type.
You're not allowed to wrap the leg and sit. Like especially like something like when you're behind someone and you wrap your leg around them.
The
and,
Henzo Gracie hook.
yeah,
thing?
we're not doing that in the class. Just to safen it up and promote other stuff. Like promote
Not relying on
yeah.
one technique.
Yeah, like,
And
like
as well as it's making it a little bit safer, you're less likely to get hurt. So you keep wrestling more and get
Yeah.
more training in.
yeah,
More
we're-
training volume over time helps you get better.
And guys are starting on the feet regularly. It's like weird if you're knee wrestling in these classes, which is crazy, right? Like it's weird if one guy's on his knees.
Yeah.
It's just weird. Like
It's not real.
it's not part of that culture.
And you also have an emphasis on standing up, which is very important for MMA context. It's
Anything.
about life, self-defense. But Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is like, they don't even worry about standing up. So it becomes like, now you're playing this fake fighting game that's not even real. Because in a real situation, the guy's just going to try to stand up. But he's not. He's like jiu-jitsuing you back. And now like you give a false sense of reality of how your technique's working because he's not even trying to stand up. So I like that aspect too. Like always trying to get up and always trying to keep someone stopping from standing up. Because that's what's going to happen.
Primary basic skills. Like that's what I would call the fundamentals.
Right, but some people don't even discuss that, right? It's like you're playing this fake jiu-jitsu. It's not, you think your game is good, but you're actually not even assessing if this guy could get up or not.
So much jiu-jitsu promotes just playing your guard and like getting your feet back in front, and like there is value to that, of course, but like it is not a superior position. Like you want to be getting up. You always want to be getting up.
The guy has gravity on his side with in terms of like ground and pound or even any type of striking. He has the benefit because he has gravity on his side. You're fighting against gravity. Maybe you could throw in the up kicks. They are effective, but still, the guy is on top of you. Just also from a conditioning standpoint, the guy on top is going to be way more fresh than the guy on bottom because he has to handle all that body weight, crushing them and making it hard for you to breathe.
Mobility.
Yeah.
You
I
wanna
guess
be
it goes
mobile.
back to where we started because it's like, what is the room and what is your responsibility in that room as a coach? Like, what are they paying you to do? Like, are you there to actually have skill acquisition and make guys good at grappling? Are you an MMA guy? Are you striking guy? Are you just a casual guy who like not too worried about like pure skill acquisition? Because
They just want to work out, I guess. But at the same time, if you're in a martial arts school, at some point, you want to know that it could help you in a self-defense situation.
Well, what
right? So I guess no matter who it is, it needs to work for self-defense, in my opinion.
what I'm
At
getting
some capacity.
what I'm getting to is this: the rule set dictates the behaviors.
That's why you have
So,
Greco-Roman.
I look around the room and I say, is anyone competing? Raise your hand. Anyone competing in the next 3-4 months, 2 weeks, whatever. One guy raises his hand. Now I know how to change like the practice. Like for the one guy who's going to compete, we're paying attention to the rule set he's competing in and all the behaviors and all the tasks and all the exploration has a lot to do with that rule set. But the rest of you guys, why are you sticking to a BJJ rule set if you never plan on competing in a BJJ rule set? If that's the case, we should have a generalist approach to grappling, and that's, I think, what CLA is really good at, or what I'm focused on with the usage of mine, is a generalist that can later specialize into something. I think that there's a very big emphasis on specialization, like right off the bat. Like you'll see a big guy. I've actually heard other coaches do this that I've worked with and heard about, anecdotal stories, but like he'll see a big guy and be like, oh, he needs a good guard. He's like a big guy who already has a good top game. Like, so in other sports and in coaching psychology, I guess you can maybe attest, but they say play to your strengths, play to the strongest things that your guys can do right away. Over time, we patch those novelties and we patch that specialization. But generally, having someone have some strong behaviors, strong things to explore, and not just taking away to work on what they're weak at is a very valuable thing to do because they're getting like useful right away. You know what I mean? I'd rather have a big, strong guy max out his top game like crazy.
And be confident in that skill, right? Be overconfident and just be like high level at that, while also still working on the negatives that he needs to fill in.
So you slowly introduce novelty over a course of time. Since I said longitudinal practice design, so we're talking about courses of time. We don't care too much about one day and walking out with the ability to do some move in a day.
And also, it goes back to the use it or lose it principle. Maybe you start out with a great top game, but now since you're focusing on all this other shit, all of a sudden now his top game's not good because you're not training it anymore. If you don't train the skill, it degrades. So that's just universally true.
Yes, and skill changes moment to moment. Skill like behavior expression, because your perception is very tied to this, and perception is not just what you see or
How
what you feel. It's a bunch of things, actually.
It's how the temperature in the room, the mat. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy shit that.
And most of it we ignore. We don't have to pay attention.
What you ate for breakfast that morning. I mean, it's kind of is changing.
Internal states. Yeah. You're talking about internal states. Yeah. Like our emotional states.
Did your girlfriend break up with you the night before? I mean, there's all kinds of weird shit that's like, you wouldn't even write down like, oh, that's affecting me. But it could be. You may not even feel it.
You'll start practice fresh with a certain perception, and then by the end of practice, or even a minute in, your perception changed immediately. So like dealing with your skill set in a fatigued state, in a depressed state. A lot of us who are training have like psychological ailments. That's why we're training.
Yes.
And dealing and like your skills never the same every day because of this. Even moment to moment, our perception changes. Some days you just feel really good and everything's clicking, and some days you feel bad and your performance is still really good and you don't even realize it. And that's the thing with like how we feel versus how we perform is very much not linked. And I've seen studies or anecdotal evidence of like people who broke records, world records, but that day they were having like the worst day ever and they felt like shit, and they still broke world records that day despite the feelings that they were having.
Right. It could be a positive, like you almost want to ignore it. It's like do your best, because no matter what, if you get overly thinking about it, almost awareness could be negative. Too much awareness of all this shit, because then like most guys just ignore all that shit and just go. You know, and it may not be. You know what I'm saying? That's
the internal versus the external focus of attention, which is one of the pillars of CLA. It focused their attention externally.
Yeah.
Like intention, attention. We talked about that
too much
before.
internal focus, almost like now you're not thinking about reality. You're thinking about other shit. Yeah.
It's a dialogue with the environment. It would be like thinking about what you're going to say instead of listening and responding to what someone's saying to you and going with that conversation or that dialogue. Like if you just stuck in your head thinking of the next sentence you want to say.
Yeah, you're not even listening to what they're saying. You're not even.
It's internal focus of attention shown to interfere.
And those people are fucking annoying.
And it's not everyone's fault either. Like, you know, some people think anxiety brings you to an internal focus of attention.
Right. Anxiety almost feels safe. Like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to say. Let me prepare what I'm going to say, because when he stops speaking, I need to have something in my head. Where instead of like feeling and reacting, you know.
So talking about implementation a little bit, Erik, how long have you been implementing CLA?
It's been a year and a half, so I think, and it's been really fun because I get to experiment with the self-defense side of it. So I'm not tied down to doing sport jiu-jitsu. I'm not tied down to any of that type of stuff. So I get to do punching and kicking. I get to give the kids like little ripped up belts that we use as play knives. So they're pinning knives to the floor, preventing each other from getting stabbed. And yeah, it gets pretty live. It's really fun for me. I get to do multiple attacker types of things. So using CLA for self-defense has been quite a ride.
Can you describe doing CLA for kids versus adults, and also just CLA versus trad for kids in general?
I'm definitely not going to say I'm like an expert in CLA. I'm not fully read in. I'm not nearly as good as John or even Joe when it comes to like knowing the exact things about CLA. But the difference with kids is that you have to keep it really simple. You have to keep it playful, almost imaginative. I'll play games, and instead of describing like the actions I want them to do, I'll describe like a story. There's a dragon. You need to bring the dragon down. Don't let the dragon out of the cage. Your cage has 2 locks, your hands and your legs. If you break one cage, you have to get it back. Don't let both your cages break.
That's cueing. Like analogies as cues are very
and
strong.
They have a connection to it. And it's also, when I was doing, I did martial arts when I was 4, right? So I was little. So I've taken a shit ton of kids' classes. And I've also taught a bunch of kids' classes. It's so boring martial arts could be. Repetitive, the same shit. Chamber, kick, back, down, chamber. How many times are you going to do that? You know what I'm saying? It's like, so now you're making it fun for them. They're having fun with their friends. It's like kind of like,
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's
Yeah.
silly play, and
Yeah.
that's where the learning is, right? It's
They
silly
want to do
play.
that anyway. Instead of telling them sit down and don't do that, you're actually leaning into
Mm-hmm.
it, but guiding them in a way where they're still developing something positive.
It's such a delicate balancing
It
act
is.
because the more of the play that you give them, the more chaos there is, and then it gets dangerous. And kids are crazy; they'll just find out any way to break your game to win. They'll figure out anything that they could do to win. So
They'll come up with different constraints, and the amount of constraints is about one, developing the skill, but really that's really two. One is about safety. How can I safely play this game? So that's your first constraints for safety, and then
safety,
second,
skill, fun. Safety, skill, fun. It's got to be fun. If it's not fun for them, they're never going to come back. That's like if you guys are trying to run a martial arts school, make sure your kids' classes are fun. If they're not having fun, they're not leaving with a smile on their face. They're not like leaving like mom. Like your classes suck.
yeah, and exercise indirectly, like through the fun and the games and stuff, getting the heart rate down, getting the heart rate up, and then sweating. Like they should be leaving sweating, smiling, begging for more. That whole
That's all part of the fun. They love running. They love being chased. They love doing challenging things. You just have to
And then
present it in
lot
a way
of these
that's
kids in martial
digestible.
Arts, I don't want to be like painting a broad, I'm saying everyone that does martial arts is ADHD, but a lot do,
Yeah,
comes
no,
out.
absolutely.
So it helps them if they do hard exercise. That's just 100% true. So if you do the skill with the hard exercise, they get more out of the skill.
Yeah.
And like the exercise is disguised behind fun.
Yeah, they don't even know they're playing. Yeah,
They
exactly.
might not realize how tired they
Yeah,
are. I've had guys like go until they puke a few times.
You almost had one today, but
I mean, they don't even realize how much we're pushing them. Like, and some guys, they take it for granted. Like, they'll make it through a class, and I'll be like, "Hello, bro. Like, you didn't even train 2 weeks ago, and you're making it through an hour of this class when like the average person who's even training can't get through these classes."
now we're getting into like the brain and its impacts on physiology and the brain's impact on physical conditioning, which is kind of interesting, but that's a whole different podcast. But we're getting into that where like the more engaging and fun it is, the more output that they could possibly produce, more so than if they're in a negative mind state, right? Where they think it's boring and don't enjoy it and see conditioning. Oh, fuck, I have to do the row machine for 2,000 meters. It's terrible. But they could do the same cardiovascular and periphery endurance effect via doing a CLA type game. And from a martial arts perspective, if there happened to be a mixed martial arts fighter or kickboxer, boxer, wrestler, jiu-jitsu guy, and they're training for a competition, doing conditioning in a CLA way that relates to the skill is most likely going to translate more than doing something on the spin bike. Even though you're
Also-
still getting the cardiovascular peripheral benefits, yes, but you're not getting these psychology and as well as the doing skills under fatigue, changing the environment. So,
And in a way, since we have a very variable practice, I've actually experimented with like reducing variability to a detrimental effect, which I don't recommend you try these experiments. But I did because I wanted to see.
he's doing shock there.
I wanted to see what variability, like how the effect actually is. And generally speaking, like the first thing you learn about coaching with this, if you read Rob Gray's book to start, the first chapter is on variability and protecting the athletes over long courses of time, because we are stimulating different tissues in like a non-linear way. I don't want to stimulate the same exact thing too much.
Repetitive injury, right?
Yeah, you get repetitive overuse injuries, which we are seeing a lot in like my era and the guys before us that need to go get like these
Hip
crazy
replacements,
surgeries
yeah.
and stuff. Not gonna blame it,
40 years old hip replacement.
but I
It's not
won't
normal.
blame it all on like I'm not gonna blame it all on drilling, because it's hard to just give causation to something like that. It's just not fair. It's not that I'll do
But
that.
you're saying just from movement to variability, getting
Yes.
different experiences and trying different movements instead of we're doing this exact kata this way.
Yeah.
We do it 1,000 times.
So
Anybody
vari-
who's drilled heel hooks, they know that after like the 30th heel hook, even if it's not zapped all the way, the next day your knee's gonna feel a little bit weird. It's just you're getting put in that awkward position over and over again.
I hurt myself drilling knee on belly because I was being nice, and my knee never was the same after that.
Oh.
I was being nice. It was to Nick way back.
That's
I didn't
wild.
want to like crush him because I was always kind of heavy and he was like kind of small. I knew he could take it, but I was like holding myself up instead of just relaxing through my knee. And I remember feeling it pull, and I was like, oh man, and it hurt forever. Still like 15 years. So yeah, drilling could be kind of iffy if you just look at repetitive motions. Like doing the same thing over and over again is not healthy. Like, so in a CLA class, I won't have like front headlocks for an hour. No way. I have to like dose that properly so that my guys don't get hurt. Like we're doing standing, different engagements on the ground, pinning seated, seated versus standing, rear control, back control, whatever.
But within a month, if you add up all the, maybe it's 10 minutes of front headlock every single class for a month, it actually ends up being 4 hours of front headlock. But instead of doing a 2-hour class of only front headlock and your neck cranking, you're microdosing it.
Yeah.
The frequency is just increasing. So decreased volume, but increased frequency.
And it's healthy for you to stimulate all these different sides too.
And your brain neuropathics, cross patterning. Like now you're working like different sides of the body and different, like chaining things together. It's opening your mind to different things.
It's so ass backwards. Most people will consider, I still do it. Well, they'll get obsessed with like a technique or a series of movement for like 6 months. I still do it. It helped me with my back control a lot. But like, yeah, the variety of training over a long period of time definitely.
And then go back to the law
helpful.
of like, like use it or lose it principle. Like you're developing the back control, but now all of a sudden your leg lock game's shitty because all you're spending is on back control. Yeah, so you got to like always keep some sort of stimulus. This is for training. This is really for strength and power and strength and conditioning science. However, I still think it relates to skill. So like in strength and conditioning, if you only do heavy lifting, your speed goes down. If you only do speed work, your strength goes down because you have to train every quality at some capacity. Maybe you may emphasize one. So like if we're doing like a fighter's training or any athlete, we want to build strength. So we build strength, but we still keep power and endurance and other things there just at lower doses. So if you want to get good at your back control, it's great. Work your back control, but still do leg locks and arm locks and takedowns at lower doses so you don't lose that skill over time. Anyway, so let's just wrap up. So
Erik brought up specialization in a way there. That's like what you're talking about.
Yeah. Let's get into this last point, specialization.
So we're talking about, I think that's what we just brought up. Everybody brought up kind of the same point. It's like generalist approach or a specialization approach. In context, like Erik, you have like 15 plus 20 years of grappling experience. At this point, specializing's totally normal for you. You know what I mean? Depends at where you're at. And again, it's like context dependent thing. Like if I'm your coach and you have a specific thing coming up, that's going to change the practice. If you don't, and I'm just watching you and I see something that I want you to be like stronger at or something I want to like lessen a little bit to bring out something else, we can do that like in a second. Like BMO walks up to me sometimes and he's just like, hey, give me something for this skill set. I need it right now. Like the guy who was just here. He needed like something specific. So we just like quickly threw like a thing together, right? And just, it worked. It was effective in my opinion.
And it was good and my goal only was conditioning, honestly. You know what I'm saying? It was like, but we got that effect too. They're interrelated is my main point. The conditioning and the skill is so related. People are trying too much in at least the strength and conditioning field is like saying it's like not the same when it kind of is the same. It could be the same.
It was like contextualized, like
conditioning.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. And that's what's happening. Like you can make it as hard as you want. You could take stuff away. You can have a fresh guy.
Every time,
like rotate a fresh partner in, and the same guy's just like Shark Tank in the game.
Or we could have done on the bike. I could have had him do 10 kettlebell swings and go on the bike.
Yeah,
but I don't think that's going to translate to the same level.
No, it's not. And transferability is there's near or far transfer, and it's debatable. You know how far or how near, but generally it's like a rule of thumb. Is this activity going to have near transfer, which is like I do it now live, and when I go to do it in the real unconstrained environment, that behavior is solid. And like the skill set's adaptable. You've dealt with that live thing enough so that you can express whatever solutions you need in the live setting that you were preparing for with the practice activity. Or you have far transfer, which is like, for instance, you can make an argument that walking around, which we do all day, translates to whatever sport, right? It does, but it's far transfer. It's like it's not going to make you better at throwing axes.
Yeah, you have to throw axes, but
but it's part of it.
Yeah.
It's far transfer. Like running and getting your cardio up is, I think, as near far transfer for like action capacity, but for skill, like expression and behavior, like behavioral emergent behaviors.
Can you do the skill while you're tired? That's what I really care about. That's what it is. It's about doing this. It's not by running while you're tired. Can you, unless your sport is running, it depends. Now running could also be closely related to what it is. If you're training for a marathon, you should run.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
I think like a jiu-jitsu example might be like doing those inversions where you put your feet on the wall and you keep on kicking over and inverting. Like that's a pretty far transfer, like when you're actually inverting and like grabbing someone's heel and diving underneath.
You need the real live resistance.
Yeah. But like it does help you invert, right? Like it does have transfer. I'm getting flexible. I'm getting used to being underneath. But like
it's
now there's weight on top of you.
Strength and conditioning warm-up exercise. I'd almost put that stuff in the strength training than it was the jiu-jitsu training.
I think transferability is like a big old spectrum, but things are like nearer or farther.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like doing that movement on the wall
develops physical ability.
You're moving.
Yeah.
You're exploring a movement behavior.
It's somewhat representative of the environment.
Somewhat,
Like
yes.
I'm underneath.
There's a floor under you. You're
Yeah.
spinning, but you don't.
developing mobility.
Yeah.
But it might not be effective against a living, breathing, moving human.
Right.
It might not be what you even need to do.
No, it may change.
You know
Because
what I
it
mean?
totally
Still great
changes
exercise.
how you go, but it's
Yeah.
still a good mobility movement, right? So it's not they're not always negative, just not ideal for this whatever goal you're trying
Well,
to.
mobility is actually useful.
Right. So it helps
You
you,
know what I
develop mobility, and then you apply the mobility in certain contexts.
Yeah,
You can
you're-
speedrun
it's
the
more of
skill
a
acquisition
general-
by doing it live. You
Yeah.
can speedrun the skill acquisition by doing
Yeah,
it
I mean,
live.
you can develop a game for inverted guards. Actually, that's kind of how we got Joe, my
Jeez.
blue belt Joe, who's like very, very good,
Gumby guard.
very, very good jujitsu guy, like ridiculous. And really, his breakouts the past 1 year and a little bit of change of CLA with just me. I was working at 2 schools, so I actually had the benefit of like having multiple different partners for him because he followed me to the 2 different mat rooms that we were in. But you see guys like that, like you give them the right activity, and it's like 2 ingredients come together, and these guys are just really, really good, really fast. Like Billy too. When you guys did you get hands on him yet?
Yeah. He held me down.
He's-
I got him a couple times,
yeah,
but
good.
he's pretty good. He gets that straight ankle lock. It's nasty.
Yeah, he's nuts. He's nuts. Billy's too good.
Yeah.
For 7 months.
Locked in, and that just shows you, like, for some people and for a lot of people you're seeing, but especially for a few people within the class, they really attract to the style of training. They really like lean into it and think like, holy shit, like they're getting a lot out of it. They don't even realize how good they're getting. You just know what it normally looks like for a beginner. And these new beginners, in this style of teaching, seem to be accelerating at a faster rate
I love beginners, actually. I prefer them.
because they
I
don't
prefer new guys.
have they don't have like ideas stuck in their head. They're open. It's an open book.
And they just get
Preconceived notion
good.
of how they should learn to move.
Yeah.
They get good so fast. It's like they wanted to do this. Like it's like they seem relieved.
And also, it's fun
Yeah,
right away.
It's fun right away.
All right, so
was it Joey?
Joey's sour. Yeah, my friend
Yeah,
Joey.
like-
He never trained before at all. He
Look-
watches UFC on TV, but he never trained ever.
And he
Not
looked
once.
really good. We did 1 class and he was already
Strangling people. Put a video on the bottom of him getting the high hand.
nah, he
position.
was wrestling,
Yeah.
taking backs,
Yeah,
hitting
yeah.
strangles like 1 class. I
Even
was
some
like,
kickboxing stuff wasn't
what
bad
the
either.
hell?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a little MMA too.
All right, guys. So thank you for coming.
Appreciate
Eric.
you having me.
Thank you for coming.
We'll do it
Coach
again.
John, and we'll do it again. And just keep an update with us. We're going to be putting out some content just of our MMA class, CLA style jiu-jitsu and kickboxing combined class with another fighter, pro fighter, Armando Jetcha. So we do every other Saturday. We do a little MMA thing. So if throw up some clips from that so you could see this concept in a live environment and how it applies. All right. Thank you for watching The Pump.